I love gambling. It's one of the most rock-solid components of the human experience. Why would I buy food when I could just burn money? You know, for fun!
Gamble idiots. You understand, if you watch the entire context of all my gambling over 15 months, you will see it as 99.8% big wins.
One problem though, I ran out of money. How am I supposed to get my fix now? Do I get a job and start making an honest living while slowly learning the value of my dollar? And start making more meaningful purchases while limiting and managing my expenses like a healthy, well-adjusted adult? Who needs gambling when there's Monster Hunter? Monster Hunter is no stranger when it comes to slot machines and RNG. Love him or hate him, it's part of the core gameplay. Recently, people have been getting real passionate about the RNG discussion, especially with the talismans versus decorations debate. So I thought it might be fun to look back on all the different types of slot machines Capcom has made over the years, and give my 2 cents that I don't have on their implementation and figure out which one's the best. We'll start with the basics, like monster rewards. It's the meat and potatoes of Monster Hunter. Beat the monster and take his shit. It's simple, intuitive, works well in-game and in real life. It's how I lost my Game Boy when I went to Lisbon. It's had some changes over the years though. In the older games you could still get low rank parts from high rank monsters, and some people are really fascinated by this fact for some reason. Like, isn't it really cool how it can get all these lesser materials from the stronger monsters? No? What's so cool about all this shit that I don't need diluting the reward pool of the shit that I do need? Nowadays they've cut back on that design and kept the low rank stuff designated to the low rank monsters and so on. You can still get plates and gems from the higher difficulties, but that's about it. Some materials you can only get from breaking certain parts like the horn or the tail, and breaking these parts can also give you an extra shot at getting one of the rare rewards. It gives the player a bit of agency over the reward pool, which is always nice. Even if you don't get the parts you need, there's a decent chance you can use those parts somewhere else, like crafting a decoration, or a cock ring for your ex-wife's boyfriend. The random nature of rewards can still fuck with you from time to time. I'm pretty sure everyone's had that one monster that just refuses to drop the part they need, and they end up farming Diablos like 20 fucking times to get a hard horn that only has a 5% chance to drop on a head break. That's probably the biggest flaw when it comes to a random system like this, but overall it works pretty well and adds a lot of replay value to the game. This, my friends, is the gold standard of Monster Hunter slot machines. I can't wait to see how they fuck it up.
Motherfucker, fuck the fucking world, and my new band is called Siskill.
In Monster Hunter Tri, Capcom released a whole new slot machine, random talismans, also called charms. Unlike normal equipment, charms were completely random and could contain different combinations of skills and decoration slots. You could get them as quest rewards or mine them from gathering spots out in the field. They were a sort of flex slot and act as the cornerstones to many different builds. I can't express how useful it was to outsource a good chunk of your skill points from your charm. A good charm can make the difference between being able to fit an extra skill or two onto your set, which is a pretty big deal in the older games where most builds could only fit around 4 to 5 different skills, as opposed to the 10 billion skills you can fit in the modern entries. As useful as charms were, they also brought a lot of problems. The way charms were generated in 3rd gen was weird. The player would load into one of 14 to 17 different charm tables, and each table had their own drop list along with some unique charms. Some tables were just flat out better than the others. Like, who the fuck is gonna turn down a Handicraft 4 Expert 10 charm? Probably the guy who rolled a Sharpness 5 Expert 10 charm in the table right above him. Now, it wasn't all bad. In Tri and Portable 3rd, you can move between charm tables by just reopening the game. But in 3 Ultimate, Capcom decided no fun allowed with one of the worst design choices they've ever made. In 3U, the player was assigned to a charm table permanently the moment they made their character. No jumping between them. Got stuck on the table where your best charm is a Handicraft 5 with 1 slot? Cry about it. Sucks to suck, dum-dum. Shoulda rolled the dice better, idiot. The worst part is that the player doesn't even know that their save file's been bricked unless they hear about charm tables on the grapevine, and they look up a spreadsheet to see where they are. And by that time, it's usually too late since the player is already invested in that save file. Fortunately, they removed these tables during the 4th generation games. Good riddance too. It sure would suck to see charm tables show up in a future game, am I right, guys? Now, before I move on to my next problem with charms, there's something I've been meaning to tell you all. I've been lying to you. I'm not a real monster hunter. Because deep down in my heart, I've always been a coal miner. Can you tell? Something I've been neglecting to talk about until now are the statistical odds of you actually getting the charms you want. Here's a comparison for you. This is the drop table of a G-rank Brachydios in Gen Ultimate. Whoa, 1 to 3% for a Brack Pallium. Looks pretty rough, right? Now, here's the drop table of every possible charm combination you could get from any quest in the same game. Are you starting to see the problem here? For how important charms are for set building, the odds of you actually getting a charm that's worth a fuck are very, very low. When I see a 2% drop rate on a monster mantle, I think, wow, a whole number. But when I think about the odds of me ever getting a Tenderizer 6 Expert 10 charm, maybe in my next life. This leads to a significant amount of Monster Hunter's endgame being dedicated to farming charms as efficiently as possible from a select handful of quests. In Monster Hunter Tri, it was poaching wyvern eggs. In Gen Alt, it was mining for coal while keeping the rent low in the inner volcanoes. Don't get me wrong, it's a novel experience the first couple of times, and it makes for a funny story to tell people, but it got old really fast.
So, let's appraise them, let's see what we got. Not that good.
I don't think I like this slot machine very much. If only there was a Monster Hunter game without random charms. Oh. Monster Hunter World brought a lot of changes to the armor skill system. One of the best changes being that players were finally able to craft their own charms. Yeah! But in exchange, RNG decorations. What used to be a craftable piece of equipment is now the new world's Vegas Strip. Some people think this is a real improvement over random charms because decorations are flexible and you can slot them into any build. How this is any different from charms, your guess is as good as mine. I can't be too hard on them though. There are a lot less decorations than there are unique charms, so getting one of the decorations you want is slightly less ass than getting a decent charm. But that's not really saying much because the drop rates for some of these decorations are just nonsense. Like, oh joy, I have a 0.3% chance to get an attack point. And that's only on a good day too. And then Iceborne made it even worse by having hybrid decorations oversaturate the drop pool. The experience that most people end up having is that they'll end up with like 20 geology jewels, but not a single shield jewel to their name. So they're stuck picking up Jagger's vomit for 200 hours until they also start throwing chunks at the screen. Random decorations have a lot of the same problems as random charms. 1, there's still too fucking many of them. 2, decorations being as flexible as charms is exactly why I would rather have the agency to craft decorations as opposed to leaving it entirely up to chance. With charms, there's at least thousands of different variations and side grades that you can substitute in place of a god charm. You can't really do that with decorations. There's no substitute for a Handicraft Jewel 3. You also need a lot more decorations to fill up a set compared to having one charm that's good enough, which means a lot more RNG molding. So in short, Monster Hunter World got rid of one slot machine so they could add another equally frustrating and tedious slot machine in its place. Great! You think that'd be it, right? Oh no. We're just getting started over here. You know what's better than one shitty slot machine? An addiction. Introducing random weapons.
There it is, at last. Reminds me of that time.
One of the title updates to base game world added the Siege of Kulf Taroth, a big raid event with new armor and weapons. What's the catch? None of the weapons are craftable. Whatever you get at the end of the siege is completely random. Want to see what the weapon pool looks like? Alright, I mean it's still a bit too many for my taste, but it looks manageable enough. Capcom, what the fuck is this? 434 weapons in the drop pool? Why? Doesn't help that the only ones that are worth a damn are the Kiara ones. Wait, what the fuck are you doing? No, don't click that. No! The Kiara weapons are arguably the best elemental weapons in the game, and they only drop from Cove. So if you're a bow or a dual blades player and you're trying to optimize your elemental sets, well, have fun! Instead of learning from their mistakes, Capcom doubled down in Iceborne with safi'jiiva and his weapon gacha. They did improve some elements from Kulve. The drop pool has been cut down to 115 weapons, which is better, but you can only pick a couple weapons after each siege, so make sure you only pick the ones you'll actually use, unless you want your equipment box to look really pretty like mine. Unfortunately, getting the weapon you want is only half the struggle. The other half is everything that comes after. Remember the weapon upgrade system? One of the most intuitive and straightforward mechanics that has been a core part of Monster Hunter's gameplay loop since Monster Hunter 1? Well, Capcom took a look at that system and said, fuck it, let's turn that into a slot machine too! Instead of upgrading Safi weapons the normal way, you get these Dracolite items. Tokens, if you will, from finishing the siege, and you spend them at the smithy to roll for random upgrades and skills. The higher tier upgrades are a lot harder to get, but if you don't like any of the upgrades you rolled, you can forgo all of them in exchange for a soft pity system that increases the odds of getting higher tier skills the more pity you accumulate. Now don't get me wrong, I think the concept they have going here is actually really cool. I really like the idea of a customizable weapon that lets you fine-tune its parameters like its sharpness and attack, or being able to outsource part of an armor set bonus to your weapon so you can make room for other armor pieces. I just wish the process was more engaging than doing this for a couple hundred hours. Like, look at how long it takes for me to forge and upgrade any other weapon. Now look at how long it takes for me to upgrade one Safi weapon. What a joke. Alright, so that's 1, 2, 3 different slot machines. And that's not even including the normal monster drop system. Is there anything else I'm missing? Here, let me just check my notes. Oh shit, that's right! The Steamworks! When Iceborne came out, Capcom gave us this little machine where you could dump coal and other mining materials to play a minigame that made you guess a random sequence of buttons, and it would spit out random items depending on how many buttons you got right. They were usually cheap freebies like mega potions and trank bombs, but sometimes you could get melding tickets as the higher tier rewards, with the astral ticket as the jackpot. Guessing the right inputs is pretty much a crapshoot though, so most people just spam the spacebar to roll the game automatically and see how lucky they get. And with me being a coal miner and all, I was really excited. I actually like the Steamworks. It's just a dumb little slot machine you can do on the side between hunts for some cheap items. It's not like the other slot machines where the entire endgame revolves around it. It's just free shit you can collect from time to time. And it's not even that hard either. You can mash spacebar with one hand, and you can jerk off with the other. Monster Hunter Rise, everybody's favorite Monster Hunter game, is a return to form on the slot machine front, for better and for worse. Decorations are craftable again, that's good. Random charms are also back, not good. They even brought back permanent charm tables from 3U so that a whole new generation of players could experience gout for the first time. They did end up fixing the charm tables later on, but that doesn't fix the fact that I still have gout in real life. This time around, Capcom gave us melding options that let players target specific skills they want their charms to have. If you wanted a weakness exploit charm, you could go to the Moonbow melding and select weakness exploit to boost your chances of getting the charm you wanted. If it sounds too good to be true, that's because it is. The entire thing is fucking rigged. The game doesn't tell you that all these other melding options have deliberately lower skill ceilings for the charms obtained from them. Like, you can get a weakness exploit charm from Moonbow melding, but it'll always be capped at level 1, and you can forget about getting skills like Crit Boost or Master's Touch as a second skill. They're not even on the table. So if you want that weakness exploit 2 charm, you have to play full random. After charm tables got fixed, people got real crafty. Instead of wasting thousands of materials on hundreds of worthless charms, it was a lot faster and more resource efficient to just save scum. The process went like this. turn off autosave, dump your materials into the melder, die to Rajang 10 times in the arena to complete your melts faster, and then collect your charms. If you didn't get anything good, reload your save file, melt 1 charm, die to monkey, collect your shit, save, reload the save file again so you get put into another charm table, and repeat the process. Welcome to endgame Monster Hunter, folks. People still do this in Sunbreak, by the way. The only thing that's changed is the monkey that people die to. But everything I've talked about so far pales in comparison to what is arguably the worst slot machine Capcom has ever conceived. In the first title update for Sunbreak, Capcom introduced Curious Crafting, which allowed players to spend tokens obtained from anomaly investigations on a slot machine that could add and remove skills on a piece of armor. I have no idea how Capcom managed to create a slot machine where you can put in a token that has 0 value outside rolling the damn machine and somehow still come out with less than what you put in. This is just rolling for charms on crack. Except it's not enough to just waste your time and patience. It has to take away your manhood too. And that's just about every slot machine we've ever had in Monster Hunter. I'm sure I missed a few, but I think you probably get the picture by now. Shoutouts to Relic Armor in Monster Hunter 4. Not much to say about it really. Why craft endgame armor when you can just roll for your entire set, you know? What everyone really cares about is which slot machine is the best. Are random charms better than random decorations? Is mining for coal way better than swimming in Jaguar's vomit for 200 hours? Well, the award for best slot machine in Monster Hunter goes to none of them. They all suck. Each and every one of them. Except the Steamworks. That one's okay. I'm so sick of dealing with all these stupid slot machines in Monster Hunter. They all boil down to spamming the same monotonous quests over and over again, so you can keep rolling the dice until the game arbitrarily gives you what you want. Sure, you could say the same thing about normal quest rewards, but normal quest rewards aren't diluted with hundreds of useless items that only exist to make the grind more tedious than it needs to be. More importantly though, quest rewards actually have a meaningful interaction with the game's crafting system. There's a sense of progression when you see the material requirements slowly fill up until you finally get that last drop you need to finish your set. That feeling of progression is one of the core strengths of Monster Hunter's quest reward and crafting systems. There's no progression when it comes to random charms, decorations, or weapons. You either have it or you don't. In fact, so many people are sick of these slot machines that players have actually found ways around them. You know what they say, if you can't beat Capcom at their own game, just cheat! We got mods like charm editors, shop mods for random decorations, there's even a mod for craftable Kolv weapons. Modding is a pretty touchy subject though, so most people just avoid the topic entirely or pretend that the obviously modded god charm they're wearing is totally legit. Like, boy, I sure am lucky this Dragon Conversion 3 Furious 2 with optimal slots just fell out of the sky. I understand that people want to preserve the integrity of the game and why people might have a problem with modders editing in their own charms and augments. You know, Scout's Honor and all that crap. But can you really blame them? Part of why so many people cheat against the RNG is because nobody wants to deal with all these terrible and monotonous systems. They'd rather spend their time hunting different monsters and crafting different gear and augmenting their weapons, instead of mindlessly shoving tokens into a slot machine for hundreds of hours with the vain hope that one day the game will finally give them the privilege of completing their builds. Personally, I don't really mind either way. As long as you're not messing with other people's games, then you can do whatever you want. But at least be honest about it. And if Capcom doesn't like me modding in my own charms, then they can just come kill me. You want my secret stash of modded weakness exploit charms? Come and take them, bitch. They won't. They'd rather try and kill the entire modding scene instead of killing the people who use and create mods. Foolishness, Capcom. Foolishness. Now, I've done a lot of bitching in this video, so let's turn it around and actually try to come up with a solution to this problem. I think the random weapons need to go. We already have a perfectly fine weapon crafting system. There's no need to get all fancy with it and adding a lottery. I'd also like them to keep iterating on Safi's weapon customization like they did with the Rampage weapons in Rise. Decorations already had a precedent for being craftable, so let's just keep them that way. For charms, I have something a bit different in mind. Instead of charms being a slot machine, what if we were allowed to craft and customize our own charms? We could have a list of skills to choose from, but we can only choose 2, just like the charms we have now. Each level of a skill would require different parts depending on the monster. For example, if you want to make a Frostcraft charm, you would need Velkhana parts. The first level could cost 4 claws, 2 wings, and a tail, while the second level could cost 3 horns, 10 shards, and a mantle. For more general skills, the player would need parts from several different monsters that are associated with that skill. An attack boost charm could ask for different parts from monsters like Baroth, Anjanath, and Rathalos, while a handicraft charm would ask for parts from Glavnis, Devil Joe, and Kushala. A system like this allows us to retain that feeling of progression from crafting armor and weapons, while still giving the players a grind to work towards in the endgame. The customizable nature of charms would also give the player a lot more agency in choosing the grind they want to engage with, instead of centralizing the endgame around 1 or 2 monsters. Now, will Capcom ever implement a system like this over a slot machine? Of course not. They want you playing these games for as long as possible, regardless of how shitty the experience is. But hey, it's fun to dream of a better future, you know? And even if they never add a system like this, we still have the tools to make any scuffed, self-enforced system that we want. The only thing you need is the discipline to follow through on the rules that you set for yourself. Unless you're a console player, you guys just get to eat ass, I guess. Boy, after wasting all that time playing slot machines, I'm actually glad that I'm burned out on gambling. There's so many better things to do in these games that you kinda take for granted until you've had a first-hand taste of Capcom's engagement slop. Like fishing! And porn! I can't believe it! Monster Hunter cured my gambling addiction! Now I can spend my time doing more productive things, like playing Monster Hunter Wilds. That shit comes out in just a few days. Oh, that's so far away though. What the hell am I supposed to do until Wilds comes out?